You ever wonder what happens when designers smoke a little too much optimism? Welcome to the 1950s, a decade of chrome dreams, rocket fins, and cars so stupid they make a clown car look like German engineering. Right now, you're about to see 25 of the dumbest, weirdest, most absurd vehicles ever built. Cars you've probably never even heard of. Not because they were rare, but because most people have spent the last 70 years trying to forget they existed. We're talking about cars that looked like eggs, cars with airplane yokes instead of steering wheels, three-wheeled death traps, bubble domes, vinyl interiors so tacky they looked like casino carpet, and engines so weak they couldn't outrun a cyclist in a headwind. You might think the 50s were all about slick Cadillacs and James Dean-style rebels, but under the hood of the American dream, there was a layer of pure, unfiltered weird. From Europe to the US, manufacturers threw anything at the wall to see what would stick. And trust me, a lot didn't stick. Stick around till the end because we saved the most unhinged one for last. A car so strange, so downright useless, that it makes everything else on this list look like a Mercedes. So buckle up, or don't. Half these cars didn't even have seatbelts. This isn't your average top 10 list. This is 25 of the stupidest cars of the 1950s you've never seen before. And once you see number 17, you'll never look at a steering wheel the same way again. So why were the 1950s such a goldmine for dumb cars? Let's set the scene. World War II had just ended, factories were retooled for peace, and consumers were starving for shiny new things. Automakers, especially in Europe and the US, were racing to outdo each other in style, innovation, and pure automotive excess. And that's when things got weird, really weird. This wasn't just the birth of cool tail fins and chrome bumpers. No, this was the age of experimental nonsense. It was a time when a car didn't need to be safe, reliable, or even functional, as long as it looked futuristic. Car shows like General Motors' Motorama were less about engineering and more about sci-fi fantasy. It was like Mad Men meets the Jetsons. But let's be clear, when we say stupid, we're not just talking about ugly cars. We mean designs that made zero sense, cars that were impossible to drive, engineering choices that actively endangered your life, and attempts to fix problems that didn't even exist. Take microcars, for example. Gas was expensive in post-war Europe, so small cars made sense. But some designers took that way too far, cramming entire families into vehicles barely bigger than a refrigerator. Then there were the American concept cars, big, bold, beautiful, and absolutely ridiculous. They had jet exhausts, swiveling seats, and fins taller than your average kindergartner. And don't even get us started on safety. Seatbelts weren't mandatory. Dashboards were made of metal. Steering columns were positioned like spears aimed at your chest. Crash testing? What's that? Bottom line, automakers in the 50s were swinging for the fences, and sometimes they missed the ball entirely. What you're about to see isn't just a list of bad cars. It's a tribute to the overconfidence of a decade that thought bigger was always better. And now, let's dive headfirst into the little machines that started it all, the micro-disasters. Welcome to the world of microcars, the 1950s idea of downsizing gone horribly wrong. Let's kick things off with the most infamous bubble on wheels. 1. The BMW Isetta, a fridge with wheels. Imagine a golf cart wearing a fishbowl. That's the Isetta. This bubble car had one door in the front. Yes, you opened the entire front of the car to get in. The steering wheel swung out with the door. It had one cylinder. Top speed, 47 miles per hour. If you were lucky. If someone parked too close in front of you, you were trapped inside. Seriously, this was not a car. It was a mobility prison. 2. Inter Auto Scooter, the flying saucer of failure. This French three-wheeled fever dream looked like a UFO crashed into a bicycle. It had folding wheels, no one knows why, no doors, and a joystick for steering. Yes, a joystick, like a fighter jet, except this thing couldn't fight anything. Not hills, not wind, not logic. It was also made by a company that had never made cars before. Bold move, France. Third King Midget Model 3, the lawn mower car. This American-made kit car promised affordable motoring and delivered exactly that. With a whopping 9 horsepower, it was like a go-kart with a windshield. Its brakes were a suggestion. Its suspension was a rumor. But hey, it was cheap and dangerous. A perfect combo in the 1950s. 4. The Scooter car, designed so a woman could drive it in a skirt. No, that's not a joke. That was literally the design brief. Made in the UK, it was narrower than a motorcycle but taller than a toddler. Its bubble windows looked like something from a submarine. And if you turned too fast, you were tipping. Instant rollover. 5. The Zundap Janus, the double-faced disaster. This German gem had 2 doors, one in front, one in back. Why? No one knows. Even better? The seats were back to back. You and your passengers had to stare away from each other like you just had a fight. It looked like 2 cars kissing, and it drove like regret. 6. The Peel P50, the world's smallest car. Okay, this one technically hit in 1962, but its design screams 1950s, and it's too dumb to ignore. It had 1 door, 1 headlight, and no reverse gear. If you needed to back up, you literally had to get out and drag it. It was banned from highways. And dignity. 7. The Messerschmitt KR-200, made by a warplane company. Yep, Messerschmitt, as in Nazi fighter jets, decided to make a car. It had a canopy like a cockpit, tandem seating, and handlebars instead of a steering wheel. When you drove it, you looked like a confused pilot trying to taxi down Main Street. It was fast. For a toaster. All these cars were born from good intentions. Fuel efficiency, affordability, futuristic design. But what we got instead? Rolling punchlines. And we're just getting started, because if you thought these were stupid, wait till you see what happened when concept cars hit the stage. Now, concept cars are supposed to push boundaries. Think big, dream wild, break the rules. But in the 1950s, they broke everything. The rules, the designs, and occasionally your faith in humanity. These weren't test vehicles. They were rolling hallucinations, built more for auto shows than asphalt. And trust me, some of them should have stayed locked in a sketchbook. 1. General Motors, Firebird, the jet car. You couldn't drive. Inspired by fighter jets, this car had swept wings, a vertical tail fin, and was powered by a gas turbine engine. Yeah, a jet engine on a car, with no thought for braking, noise, or practicality. It looked like it was ready for liftoff, but all it really launched was confusion. Driving it down the street would have turned pedestrians into roast chickens. 2. Ford Nucleon, the nuclear-powered fantasy. Ford had a vision, a nuclear reactor inside your car. No gas, no emissions, just good old atomic power. They never built a working model, thank God, but the idea was real. You drive around with a tiny reactor behind your head. What could go wrong? 3. GM Le Sabre, the Chrome Tornado. This car was a beauty until you tried to drive it. It had rain-sensing tech, futuristic fins, and hidden headlights, but it was a nightmare to maintain. The front looked like it was smiling at you with malicious intent. It was all style, zero sensibility. A fashion show on 4 wheels. 4. Chrysler Turbine Car, the jet you could actually own. Kinda. Only 55 were made, and they sounded like hair dryers on steroids. The turbine engine could run on anything, diesel, tequila, even Chanel number 5. But the ride? Rough. The heat? Intense. And maintenance? A mechanic's worst dream. Chrysler crushed most of them when the program died. It was like waking up from a stylish, very loud dream. These concept cars weren't failures because they didn't work. They were failures because they never should have worked. They were designed to look cool, not be smart. And what happens when that same thinking bleeds into production cars? Well, you get the next group, the design disasters. Some cars fail because of what's inside: weak engines, bad mechanics, poor safety. But these failed on sight. The 1950s were full of design risks. Some worked, some turned into icons, and others, well, they looked like someone designed them with oven mitts on. 1. The Nash Rambler, 1950. The bathtub on wheels. It was practical, compact, and built for families, but it looked like you were driving a porcelain tub down the street. The fenders were bulky, the roofline was awkward, and the front grille, it looked like it was sucking in its cheeks. Stylish? Number? Waterproof? Hopefully. 2. The Studebaker Starlight Coupe, the reverse car. From the back, it looked like the front. From the front, it looked confused. It had wraparound rear windows that gave the illusion that the car was staring backwards. If you ever wanted a car that looked like it was driving in reverse while parked, this was it. 3. The Nash Healey, 1952 redesign. Mouth open, nothing to say. The grille looked like a giant yawn. You'd swear it was trying to swallow pedestrians whole. It was a sports car made by people who maybe had seen a sports car once through binoculars in the fog. 4. The Kaiser Dragon. Gold trim, fake alligator, real regret. This car came with vinyl dragon skin upholstery, gold badging, and enough attitude to blind onlookers. It was meant to feel luxurious, but instead it felt like Vegas on wheels. Even worse, it was marketed as a gentleman's car. Gentlemen don't drive crocodiles. 5. The Fiat 600 Multipla, the pregnant roller skate. This Italian family car had a stubby, bulbous front, no real hood, and seats for 6, somehow. It looked like it was trying to give birth to itself. Engineers called it innovative. Kids just pointed and laughed. 6. The Ford Edsel, the most famous flop of all time. No 1950s car list is complete without the Edsel. The front grille looked like, well, ask the internet. Some say toilet seat. Others say worse. Ford spent a fortune hyping it up, but the public instantly hated it. Its launch became a masterclass in how not to sell a car. Here's the thing. Design is subjective, but bad taste? That's universal. The 50s were full of bold ideas, and these cars boldly face-planted. But hey, at least they were trying to be stylish. The next group didn't even manage that. Coming up, cars that were dangerous by design. The 1950s were all about looks, but nobody was thinking about survival. Seriously, it's like car companies back then believed if you crashed, you'd just walk it off. Let's break it down. 1. Steel everywhere, padding nowhere. Forget airbags, forget collapsible steering columns. Your dashboard, solid metal. Your steering wheel, a steel spear aimed at your chest. Your seatbelts? Oh, right, there were none. These weren't cars. They were bullet-shaped blenders. 2. Giant fins, zero visibility. Those massive tail fins everyone loved? They made it nearly impossible to see behind you. Reversing was like guessing which way your fridge is facing. Some even blocked your own taillights, because who needs signals, right? 3. mechanical death traps. Brakes? Often drum brakes which faded fast. Suspension? Wildly inconsistent, especially on those microcars. Three-wheeled models like the Reliant Regal prototype, easy to tip over just by turning. These cars were the opposite of safe. They were basically stylish little time bombs. 4. No crash testing. Ever. Today, we obsess over crash test ratings. Back then, the only test was, did the guy walk away or not? There were no crash dummies, no safety cages, and certainly no laws requiring manufacturers to test impact strength. So while these cars might look cool in a vintage ad, remember this: a lot of them were one fender bender away from a funeral. Now that we've covered the stuff that could kill you, let's get back to the cars that just killed your dignity. Coming up next, the oddballs that were too weird even for the 50s. If you thought we'd run out of strange, think again. These next few cars were so weird, they didn't even fit in with the other disasters. They're the bonus fries at the bottom of the bag, except they're stale, cold, and shaped like confusion. 1. The Davis Divan. 3 wheels and a dream. It had 1 wheel in the back, 3 across the bench seat, and a single windshield wiper the size of your arm. The company's founder ended up in prison for fraud. Let's just say the car wasn't the only thing that crashed. 2. The Waterman Aerobile, the flying car that couldn't fly. Half plane, half car, fully useless. You could drive it to the airport, attach the wings, and maybe fly it. Problem was, it did neither very well. Also, wings were not included in the base price. 3. The Manta Ray, designed by a guy with a ruler and no limits. One-off show car, looked like a spaceship, had fins, bubble top, side rockets, and the aerodynamics of a shoe. Great for a sci-fi movie, awful for a driveway. These cars were so far outside the norm, they didn't just bend the rules. They forgot the rules existed. And now, it's time to close this glorious mess out. So what did we learn today? The 1950s gave us some of the coolest cars ever made, but also some of the dumbest, weirdest, and most hilariously broken machines to ever touch pavement. Designers were bold. Engineers were optimistic. And logic? Yeah, logic was out to lunch. But honestly, that's what makes these cars awesome. Not because they were good, but because they dared to be different. They failed spectacularly, and in doing so, became unforgettable. So the next time you see a shiny '57 Chevy, remember, somewhere nearby, there's probably a 3-wheeled microcar trapped between 2 parked cars, waiting for someone to push it backward. If you loved this trip into the automotive twilight zone, hit that like button, subscribe for more insane history, and tell us in the comments, which of these cars would you actually drive, just for the laughs?